My colleague from Maine and my colleague from Kansas have mentioned the rural component of education, and as you know, coming from a state that's 1/5 the size of the country with about 732,000 people, we got a lot of rural. We got a lot of spaces, and we have a lot of very small schools. I had an opportunity just last week to take 5 of my Senate colleagues to a place in Southwest Alaska, Bethel, large regional community, primarily Alaska Natives, but we went further beyond Bethel to the community of Oscarville. 80 people, 17 kids in the school, 2 teachers, challenges in delivering education in a very rural, very remote area where broadband is an issue, quite honestly, basic water and sanitation is an issue. So the question to you here this afternoon is actually pretty general in terms of how we address those in our very rural communities, how we ensure that these children, and your words are, there are children who stand too far behind their peers, and these are rural students, and these are Native American students. So again, Alaska really fills that bill. You've also indicated as one of your priorities to do more to ensure a diverse pipeline of future educators. One of the things that we're struggling with in Alaska is how we get more Alaska Native children to believe that being a teacher can be a noble calling for them. Can you give me a little assurance about how you view some of these challenges in educating our rural children and Native American children, Alaska Natives?
Absolutely. You know, I was state chief in New York, and even though when folks hear New York, they think of New York City, we had 700 districts spread all throughout the state, and many of the districts are small rural districts up in the North Country near the Canadian border or out in Western New York. And I spent a lot of time on rural issues, could see how districts were struggling with declining enrollment, the difficulty of providing art, music, AP classes, finding a physics teacher, districts that were struggling to try and preserve the sense of community around school in the face of declining opportunity. So I think it's very important that we focus on rural education. I'm proud that we have a competitive priority in many of our grant programs focused on rural areas. We've got about 20% of our current innovation grants that are focused in rural communities, and we're seeing some very good results from many of those projects. One of the things I worked on in New York was a virtual AP initiative to try to ensure that maybe folks couldn't hire an AP teacher, but they could share one across a set of districts in a region, and through blended learning, make those classes available to students. So we want to make sure that rural educators are very much a part of the conversations at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level on implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, that we're trying to get resources and opportunity. President's Connect Ed initiative has really focused on trying to improve issues of bandwidth in rural communities. We want to continue that work together with the FCC. On the issue of Native students, I'm very worried about the stagnant performance of Native students. If you look at our high school graduation rate, which just reached a record high, and we saw increases for every subgroup except for Native American students, which was flat. I think there's more that we can do to support Native communities in trying to infuse Native language and Native culture into the school program so that to raise students' aspirations. We've got a Native youth community projects program. The president's proposed an increase in funding for that. We're seeing some promising results from those grantees, and I would love to work together with you to do more on Native issues.
I'd like to do that. I particularly appreciate the fact you've mentioned the Native languages. That's something Senator Franken and I have worked on and have included within ESA. Very quickly.